Let's move over to the East. The Eastern Conference, this is where I had a much tougher time picking this team, personally. I had a list of maybe 20 players that really deserve to be in these seven slots. And I'll say it right now, I think the East is more talented than the West. I know that we've always thought that the West was the beast in the conferences, but I think it's flipped. I honestly do. I think the East is deeper. There's a couple of dynamic teams at the top of the West, the Clippers and Lakers, and obviously the Jazz are doing pretty good now. But I think depth-wise, I think the East is looking like the stronger conferences at the moment. What do you say to that? Do you agree, disagree?
I think you nailed it. I think, as you said, it's the deeper conference. It's so deep now, which made picking this pretty hard. And you can see it in the standings as well. This the fact that the sixth seed right now is literally just a 500 team at 15 and 15 shows how competitive it actually is. All of these guys are competing. Even a team like the Wizards are now in like a 5-game winning streak.
Yeah.
They have Bradley Beal in there. Westbrook's doing his thing out in the East. And it's just like, they're literally only like 2 games back now from getting that elimination, 10th seed game. So there's a wild battle going on.
It's going
to be
it's going to be a fight to get into that play-in tournament in the Eastern Conference, like you said. And because it's a condensed fixture, a lot of those games, they are going to be inter-conference games. So there's more East versus East teams happening, which is reflected as to why their win percentage may be lower than some of the other West teams. So I think just when you look at the talent in some of these rosters, I think it's much superior to the Western Conference. Now, if we look at our picks, again, we'll flash them up on the screen here. We all had pretty similar picks. We all had James Harden, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Zach LaVine, and Domantas Sabonis, who was not selected. Couple of differing picks at the end here. I'll start with the one that you had that no one else did in Jimmy Butler.
Jimmy Buckets.
Jimmy Buckets for the Heat. And the rest of us, myself, Michael, and Jermaine, all had Julius Randle instead. So taking the Knickerbocker, who was selected. I don't believe Jimmy was.
He was not, no. I'll also mention that you were the only person that didn't have Ben Simmons as well.
Did not have Ben Simmons. So that's the other difference. Let's start with the Jimmy versus Julius Randle debate first. Tell me why you picked Jimmy Butler over Julius.
Well, I feel like we all need to, take a deep breath and just take a step back. And yes, Jimmy Butler missed a few games. He still played 19 games. He's still putting up close to 28-8. Like he's doing pretty well. And since he's back in the roster, they're getting wins. They're flying up the standings. I think they're their 3rd or 4th win in a row. They will be a playoff team. When the season is said and done, they will probably be like a 6th seed, or they could even get higher. They could be a 5th or even a 4th seed. That would not surprise me at all. And we would all look like absolute fools if we look back at the All-Star game and like, why did the 4th seed, the team that just went to the NBA Finals, led by Jimmy Butler, how did he not make it onto the All-Star team? I still feel like, obviously, you have to take a little bit of the prowess from before. That's probably why Chris Paul gets lifted into these games. Jimmy Butler just led this team to the NBA Finals. He's putting up 28-8. Let's get him in the All-Star game. It should be the best players out there. He's one of the best players in the league.
You look, fair enough, but I think
he's better than Julius Randle. It comes down to that. He's better than Julius Randle.
Not denying that. I think this is a bit of a debate of what is an All-Star and what is like what are you voting for? And I've always voted for my All-Stars based on just this season and just the block of games that they've shown me for the season. And the fact that Jimmy Butler has missed, 12, I think it's 12 games so far this season. Like that weighs heavily on me. I think that he gets a bit of a knock for that. And you got to give props. Like I'm the biggest Knicks hater as there are out there, but Julius Randle is balling, man. Like there's no denying it. He's putting up 23.3 points, 11 rebounds, 5.5 assists. And the Knicks, to their credit, are actually doing decent. They're just sitting below 500 in a competitive East that we said. And if you look at their roster, who else is really helping them out? Like this RJ Barrett. Like, what do you?
I'd say Tibbs' defense is probably what's helping them out the most.
Tibbs' defense, yeah. I don't know. I think Julius Randle to me was a clear All-Star contender. I was looking for reasons to not put him on because I just don't like the Knicks that much, but I just couldn't do it because he's the clear engine room guy for that roster that is to this point doing well. Now you mentioned that in the future it might look silly when the Knicks fall out of the playoffs and the Heat come up to the 5th or 4th seed. Sure, but the voting has to be done by now. and we can't really vote based on that prediction. And I also don't take into consideration his playoff run from last year. So based on that kind of evidence, I don't think. Yeah, that's why I've got Julius Randle in there over Jimmy Butler, and I'm assuming why the others do as well. Not denying that Jimmy Butler's a better player than Julius Randle, though.
I think a good comparison to Julius Randle, who we all had in our team, was Domantas Sabonis. We all had him as a lock. They're putting up very similar numbers. They're both putting up that 24, 10, and 5 assists kind of ballpark. Like once again, they don't block shots either.
No,
actually, Sabonis has been blocking shots recently. If you have been looking the past couple of weeks, he's been averaging 2 a game. So that's actually a bit of a surprise. But I mean, he should have been in there. I think the Indiana Pacers have a better record as well. They're actually above 500. I think they're in the 5th seed. So
yeah. I think it's outrageous that neither Sabonis or Malcolm Brogdon got selected in this team when they're sitting in the 4th seed in the East, above the Raptors, above the Celtics, above the Knicks, Chicago Bulls, all these teams that got all-stars in there. I think that it's clearly on the back of those 2 players. You look around the rest of the roster. Yes, Miles Turner's having a defensive impact, but in terms of putting up stats, putting up points, impact the team, those 2 players I think are doing really well. I argued for Malcolm Brogdon to be on the All-Star starters. I ended up conceding that Kyrie Irving was probably the right selection. But to speak on him, you guys all had Ben Simmons over him, and I had Malcolm Brogdon. Talk to me. Why Ben Simmons over Malcolm Brogdon? I know the Sixers are doing well. They're at the top of the standings, but why have you gone Ben Simmons in as an all-star this year?
It was 2 main reasons. The one reason is I do like to kind of give one vote, usually to one kind of defensive anchor. And he has been one of the best defensive players, perimeter defenders in the league. And on top of that, as you mentioned, they are the top in the East. That should also have some praise. Embiid's a lock. You should have someone else. It should have been Ben Simmons, or it should have been Tobias Harris. Do you like to reward the winning? Especially if you're a number 1 seed. So that is the 2 main reasons. I say the winning record. And I like to, as I said, throw in a bit of praise for some good defense.
No, fair enough. Look, and again, this is not an argument to say that I think Brogdon is a better player than Simmons. I obviously think Ben Simmons is a much better player than Brogdon. I just think that to this part of the season, Brogdon has contributed more to the team success of Indiana than Ben Simmons has contributed to the team success of Philadelphia. Now, in Philadelphia, you've got another player who is also an all-star contender, which is Tobias Harris, who's putting up literally a career year. I don't think he's ever played as good as he's playing right now. And they've got some good role players stepping in there in terms of Seth Curry, a lot of shooters out there as well. Joel Embiid is putting up an MVP level sort of year. So that was why I sort of moved Brogdon in there. He started the year exceptionally hot, has cooled down a bit more of late, which is probably why he was not in the minds of some of those coaches. But look, I'm more upset that Sabonis didn't get in there than Brogdon. I remember you asking me that question when we did our starters, and I did end up swaying back to Sabonis. But yeah, Brogdon was someone that I was pretty keen to get in there. And if you look at, like you said, the comparison between Sabonis and Randle, they're like similar stats, but one's the 4th seed and one's the 7th seed. So how did the guy in the 7th seed get in there? I suppose you could point to the fact that he's got less help than Sabonis, which is the only real reason. But a bit shocked by that one, that he wasn't the man to get in there.
Yeah, I feel like to some degree they actually hurt themselves because Sabonis and Brogdon, because one of them wasn't a clear front runner, they would have split the votes to a point where I'm sure they would have been next on the list. One of the 2 of them, or even both, would have been, right there in terms of the total amount of points to get in there. So it's a bit of a sneaky pick that Vucevic, just because he is the front runner for his team, he would have ended up getting the correct amount of votes. Because I'm sure there would have been some coaches, some players out there who voted for him. And once again, Brogdon and Sabonis are splitting the votes. So I definitely think Sabonis and Brogdon are more deserving than Vucevic. Vucevic's Magic aren't doing very well. He's totally putting them on his back. Like, don't get me wrong.
Oh, he's having a great season.
I mean, he is having an all-star level season, but this East, it's so packed.
It's so hard to fit 12 players in from the East, like we said from the top. And like I said, Vucevic, I would probably say is a better player than Sabonis as well. He's got the ability to space the floor, shoot it. Maybe not as quite a good of a facilitator, maybe not quite as good defensively, but just that ability to shoot and sort of offensively a bit more creative. Argument either way I could see, but just the fact that the team isn't doing as well, and they're putting up a similar stat line, I would give the edge to the player who is on the better team, especially when he doesn't have any other all-stars. You know, if he's going to be the sole all-star on that team, I think Sabonis deserves it. But I want to read out some names of players who didn't make the all-star team, because this could be an all-star team in itself. I'll just run through a few guys that we haven't even touched on. Bam Adebayo, who is someone who I would actually probably pick over Jimmy Butler for the Heat this season, who's been playing exceptionally and has not missed that many games. Gordon Hayward from the Hornets, Chris Middleton from the Bucks, Drew Holiday, another defensive player who's playing exceptionally efficiently over at the Bucks. Fred VanVleet, who's been the Raptors' best player this year. Pascal Siakam, I know he started slowly, but has been balling recently. Jeremy Grant, who's putting up a career year in Detroit and a struggling team. Trae Young, we haven't even mentioned, who was an all-star last year, who's always putting up numbers.
All-star starter last year.
Yeah, a starter, to not being selected. And then Tobias Harris is another one that I do want to mention that we have sort of touched on already, having a career year as well. So, and we haven't even talked about Russell Westbrook and some other players alongside there as well. Colin Sexton, I'll give a shout out as a young player who's having a bit of a career year as well. So lots of players there, very deep conference. So let us know in the comments, who do you think was snubbed? Who do you think deserves to be in the All-Star team on both the East and the Western Conference? And always remember, if you're going to say someone deserves to be in there, let us know who you would take out as well. It's easy to just say, all these players should be in there, but let us know who they should take out, because that's where the real test becomes.